Good evening and welcome to 𝗤𝗘𝗙𝗿. 𝗤𝗘𝗙𝗿 में आप सबका स्वागत है. Today we are going to talk about impressions from Israel. And to talk us through this is General Satish 𝗤𝗘𝗙𝗿. General Satish 𝗤𝗙𝗿, welcome. Honored to have you here after a long time.
Thank you, sir.
Right?
Good to be here with you.
Yeah. Before I start, I must tell everyone why we are doing this impressions from Israel. It's because they're really impressions from Israel. General Satish 𝗤𝗘𝗿 recently spent a week in Israel. He went to ground zero of October 7th, that Hamas, attack on Israel. He interacted with people. He interacted with the hostage also, and people who have, hostages still there at that time when he went. And I think he's the best man to tell us the story. Because it's nice to talk of newspaper reporting, this, that, and all. But going there after such a long time, interacting with people, seeing those historical places around in Israel, which have a lot of meaning and which have contributed to the problem also. Those holy places are actually part of the problem. And then I'm sure he'll give us, at the end of all this, a sense whether this entire story has the end or is it just the beginning and where it's going. Because that's more important than just understanding the feelings. But before he starts, I'd like to put one thing across. Whatever he's going to tell us is largely from the Israeli side. There's a Gaza side also, right? So as much as feelings will be, we will feel, I'm sure we will feel, but what happened to Israelis, just think of the Gazans also, the Palestinians, they've also suffered. But that doesn't discount the suffering of this, there's no equation. More than anything, it's good to know from the heart what he felt. That's why when he told me he's come back from Israel, I said, you must speak. With this, General 𝗤𝗘𝗿, all yours, please take it on.
Thank you very much, sir, for inviting me on this show, 𝗤𝗘𝗙𝗿, once again. And Jai Hind, viewers, it's good to be talking to you all again. Now, I would have started with a disclaimer, which General Shankar has saved me, and that would have let me still say, is that I was invited last month. I went on an invitation from an Israeli NGO, and they want to propagate their point of view. So I was with a delegation of 12 people from different walks of life from India. So the disclaimer was going to be that what I'm going to say is largely an Israeli point of view, because they have taken us around to those places. But it doesn't take anything away from the facts of the case. I will also then sort of intertwine it or mix it with my own experiences of counterterrorism for 4 decades that I have been indulging in. So that having been said, I will take you through a few pictures first, and so that we set the stage for some impressions on ground, and then we'll discuss. And I'll keep discussing along. Before I come to the pictures, I would like to spend a couple of minutes. I'm sure everyone does know about Israel, but allow me about 2-3 minutes to give a fact file about Israel. I'll just show a map and some facts about Israel. Sir, can we have that presentation? Right. I'm sure everyone can see this map. Now, the map clearly shows the position of Israel vis-a-vis other countries. And as you can see, Israel is not surrounded by very friendly countries. With 2 of them, they've generally made peace, Egypt and Jordan. But we can't call them friends by any stretch of imagination. They have their own prickly issues with each other. Lebanon, Syria is well known, the contention of Golan Heights in the north. But more important is to understand the dynamics of West Bank, which you see to the right, the red, maroon, brown color enclave onto the right of Israeli map. That is West Bank. Ramallah being the main city there. And at the tip of it, or at the one edge of it, is Jerusalem. Jerusalem is an international city. It is got a very different kind of thing. It is the 300,000 people who live in Jerusalem are not Israeli citizens. Jerusalem is divided into 4 quarters. The Armenian quarters, because Armenians came and ruled there centuries ago. So Armenians have a base. It's the old city is a very old kind of city with very narrow lanes, and you have to walk through it. We kept walking the whole day there. And then there is a Jewish quarter, because it, as I will show you some pictures, it is the fountainhead or birthplace of 3 religions: Jews, Christians, and Islam. They started here. So coming back to the 4 quarters: Armenian quarter, Jewish quarter, there's a Christian quarter, there is a place where Lord Christ was crucified, and there's a stone slab where his body was brought down. And then, of course, there is a Muslim quarter. Having said that about Jerusalem, Jerusalem is the capital, not Tel Aviv. Sometimes people make a mistake. Jerusalem is the capital of Israel. Then we also have Gaza. Very small dot that you see on the very small enclave that you see on the map on the Mediterranean Sea, brown color, is Gaza. Now, Gaza, okay, I will take the help of next slide to bring out the facts about Israel, I beg your pardon, about Israel, West Bank, and Gaza, just to give you some sense of empirical data. Can we have the next slide, sir? Population of Israel is 10 millions, of which Jews are 75% or a little more. Muslims, including Druze, who are a very moderate and different kind of, but still aligned to more to Islam, are 21%. So look at that. That is actually much more than the percentage of Muslims in India. This is just to give you a little sense of understanding. These Muslims are by and large at peace with Israel, with the Jews. It is, they don't have a problem with it. There are Arabs, there are Bedouins, there are Druze, and a couple of other smaller sects. Others are 4%, in which there are Christians. I think about, if I have my figures right, around 200,000 are Christians. And then there are smattering of other religions, maybe expats, etc. And like I mentioned, the 300,000 citizens of Jerusalem are not Israeli citizens. The management of Jerusalem is also by a small municipal body which administers it, and it is not directly under the, I mean, it gets funded by all, but it is not under Israeli government. The population of West Bank, we spoke about West Bank, is 3 million. Population of Gaza is 2 million. Now look at the size difference. It is nearly, much bigger. That is, West Bank is much bigger, but the population is 2 million. Gaza Strip is very densely populated place in the world, and it is just about 41 kilometers by the width varies from 6 to 12 kilometers. So that's the lack of depth there. So they can launch missiles into Israel. Israel can launch missiles there, and that's what keeps happening over the period of time. Total 365 square kilometers. It's 2 times the size of Washington DC. I read this somewhere. Okay, and as far as West Bank is concerned, it is 15 times its size. It is 5,000 plus 5,000, more than 5,500 square kilometers. It is 130 kilometers long. It is all along the Jordan River, and down below in the southern part of West Bank is also the Dead Sea, which is a boundary between Jordan and Israel. And it is about 40 to 65 kilometers at its width. West Bank, Gaza does not have any Israeli settlers. West Bank has Israeli settlements. West Bank is not a contiguous mass of land as the map shows. It has crisscross of roads. There are enclaves. There are areas which there are Israeli settlers there called settlements, and there are three types of areas there: A, B, and C. One is Israeli police has some discipline measure controls. The second, where Israeli and the Palestinian Authority have a sort of joint control, and third, which is purely controlled by the Palestinian Authority with Mr. Abbas as the president. So, and it has got 256 checkpoints. You have to pass through checkpoints every time you go. So it's not a very contiguous strip of land. Okay. Having said that, I come to my visit. It started in last week of August, 24th, 25th, last week of January, 24th, 25th of January. And the moment you landed at the airport, the first sight that greeted you gave you the mood of the nation. So can we have the next slide? It's a little distorted, the slide. The photograph has got a little distorted, but let me just show this to you. Oh, sorry. Okay, this is not the first I wanted. Let me start with this. Like I said, Israel is just go back, sir. Let's go back for a bit. Can we go back to that? Yeah. This is the birthplace, I said, of three religions. The golden dome that you see is the Temple Mount, is the holy place the Jews there. It has been destroyed a couple of times in the history. Then to the right extreme, you see a black dome. That is the Al-Aqsa Mosque. And below the golden dome to the right, you see a wall. And if you can look closely, you see black dots. Those are people praying at the Wailing Wall. That is the Wailing Wall, the Jewish place of prayers. And inside this old city is, like I said, the place where in the Christian quarter is where Lord Christ was crucified. Okay, next, please. This photograph, though slightly distorted, you can make out the travelator on the aircraft. And I've taken the photograph only on one side. On the other side of the pathway is also lined with similar photographs. Bring her home, bring him home, and all the hostages. And this is a constant refrain you see all over Israel. So the photographs of hostages or victims, we still don't know how many hostages have turned victims. Next. Then I went to Gaza Strip. Now this, I am standing with a Druze soldier in Israeli army. He's carrying, soldiers always carry their weapons. When they go on leave, they carry their weapons home. When it's a common sight to see in a cafeteria or a restaurant or a bar, a couple of soldiers carrying their assault rifles. It looks a little odd, but that's the way they are. They're always prepared. Yet, so weapons are moving around very freely in the towns, markets, trams, and restaurants. But they haven't had a single case of mass shooting like is commonly heard in the US and in the West. This photograph I'm trying to show you, this is behind us. You can see a road, and behind that road is Gaza Strip. So we are standing at the border between Israel and Gaza. Thank you, sir. Next one. Now this photograph, you can see, you can see that there are red flowers. These are artificial flowers. Behind that, these are flowers called anemone, which behind, okay, let me come to that. Behind that, you can see a lot of some photographs put on pillars. This is the Nova Music Fest site, where a huge music fest was taking place. There were many foreigners as well, and thousands of youth from Israel who were partying the whole night. And early in hours of the morning, the terrorists struck over here. I will narrate that sequence later. So these flowers, artificial flowers, have been planted. They're red in color, planted by the locals to signify the youth who have died, sacrificed their lives in that fest. The next photo will make it clear. Next slides. Now this is behind the flowers. I am standing with Idor. He is a 23-year-old survivor. He was partying and dancing away with his friends. He was one of those lucky ones who survived the terrorists. They ran away somewhere, they hid somewhere, then they finally found a vehicle, they managed to go away. So he told us his old poignant story. And he's joined the army thereafter. He's right now in the army. Now the photographs that you see is of all those who have been either taken hostage or killed in that music fest site. And there are hundreds of them. It breaks your heart to see the kind of heartrending messages some people have posted, even WhatsApp messages. I think the next photo is that. Can we have the next slide, sir? This is it. You won't be able to read or understand the language, but I just want to point out, now this one big billboard there is of this young man, and what is written below him is the WhatsApp messages that he has exchanged with his mother or with his parents just before he died. And have you found the car? No, I'm going to the car, and those kind of things. And then what is happening? So he's posted some pictures which you can see on the right hand side, the car and the blurry picture, and then to the right is the picture of the WhatsApp, the screenshot of the WhatsApp messages from his parents. Next. Then I went to a couple of kibbutz. You all know kibbutz is a community living culture that Israel abounds in. I mean, it abounds in Israel. And this is one of the kibbutz called Kibbutz Nir Oz. And houses were burnt up like this. The terrorists attacked many kibbutzim. Kibbutzim is the plural of kibbutz. So they attacked many of them. And in one of them that we visited, Nir Oz, I told you, at every house you see on the wall, there are posters stuck. The photographs of the victims or some who were dragged in as hostages are still stuck there. Our guide, incidentally, was a lady. The next picture, sir. Next slide, please. Our guide in that neighborhood was a lady whose house is this. She took us inside a house. It was set on fire. The two photographs that you see outside, her and her husband. She was our guide. Her husband was killed there itself in the bush. He ran out to defend when he saw terrorists. A lot of such young men went out and they were shot. This woman was taken hostage, and Liat is her name, and she was in the first hostage exchange. After spending 54 days in captivity, she was back. When we asked her about her experiences, I found it a little, I did not expect this reply. She was very emphatic, and she insisted that she was treated very well. So that's the perception from there. Next. This is her, Liat, standing behind, in a row of photographs, she stands behind a photograph of her husband who was killed that morning, actually. And I will explain that thing later once I just finish with the photographs, how it happened. Next. Okay. So I will stop here. Let the slide stop here, and let me tell you what happened that day. Or just a couple of photographs. I think I'll finish. This is a hostage square, which I visited in Tel Aviv. That first 3 days we were in Jerusalem. This is the hostage square. The day we were there, I think it was 29th or 30th of Jan, I think. This is 480th day. It was that day. 480 days, 11 hours, 39 minutes, and 27 seconds. So it was a ticking clock, huge LED clock in the middle of a square, very close to the IDF forces, Israeli Defense Forces headquarters, multi-storied building. And there are a lot of photographs around this that you see. Some of them you can see of the hostages and the victims. There we have, our guide was a lady whose 80-year-old uncle had been taken as a hostage. And while she was, describing her ordeal to us, she got the news. The next day was the next hostage exchange, and she got the news that her uncle was being released the next day, and she just couldn't control her emotions. She gave a hug to all of us, and so she was. The next picture, sir. Sorry for the distortion again. So this is a lady. She's holding in her neck. She's got a picture of uncle. Next, and next day, her uncle was freed. This is a 80-year-old uncle. Gadi Moses is his name, and he is walking through. And this is what Hamas always did. You can see terrorists with their faces covered, holding assault rifles, and they always paraded the soldiers and then through the town. When they humiliated them when they came out. This is the perception we got. Next. There are two more slides. This is a parking place. Again, the picture is distorted. This is just to show you I'm standing in front of a bunker instead of they call it bomb shelters. So it's a small bomb shelter in a parking lot. So there are bomb shelters everywhere. When you go to a hotel, there are signs saying the bomb shelter is this side. When you go to a museum, you go everywhere, there are bomb shelters. They live this life. It reminds me pretty much of my life on the LOC. But for civilians to live this life is a very tough call. Next. And I'm sure there would be similar things across in Gaza as well. This is a children's playground with a play tunnel is also a bomb shelter. And the last picture I found that very touching. A small child. Next, sir. Okay, sorry. This is a children. This is with the Bedouin children. Somewhere we were interacting with a Bedouin colonel, and outside his house, children were playing football. And this was, I wanted to give you a sense of the fact that how Bedouins, Arabs, and other communities who are Israeli citizens are living at peace with the Jews. Next, they are also in the army. This picture of a small child, the name Ariel, he was 4. Every photograph has the age. So he was 4 when he was kidnapped, and now somebody's cut it and made it 5. He's become 5-year-old in captivity. Everyone is, of course, aged 1 year who is still a hostage. Thank you. So now let me take a few minutes now to talk about what happened. Firstly, no one denied that it was a huge intelligence failure and a political failure, because whatever intelligence was there, and you'll be surprised to know there was intelligence. Neither did the military act on it, nor did the political machinery act on it. Because they said, when the army colonel who briefed us at the border in Gaza, he said, I have been fighting in Gaza. He says, we had information. We could see the Hamas training across. It's a very narrow strip. It's very transparent. You can see everything with the UAVs, drones, everything they could see. They could even see them practicing on mock-up targets. They did not know where, but they knew it will happen. But how did it happen? On the 7th of October, now that was the day of Shabbat. Shabbat is their holy day. Saturday is a Shabbat day, and they have holiday on Saturday, not on Sunday. So Friday evening, a hooter is sounded in towns and cities, and at sunset, and everything comes to a halt. They don't use technology. That is to say, computers, televisions, laptops, everything. Even mobile phones are turned upside down. Those who are orthodox, who observe these customs, and there are a lot of them. So, in fact, they don't even cook. They cook the food one day before, and they consume the food during that day till the evening of Saturday. So, it was on Saturday morning where Shabbat had begun. So, a lot of them were not seeing news on TV. They were not putting their mobile phones were off, or they had turned it upside down. A couple of them whose phones were on told us, my mobile phone was buzzing like crazy, but I did not know whether I should pick it up or not. It happened in the wee hours of morning that these terrorists came in. How many? 3,000, approximately 3,000 of them. They came in from multiple places. In fact, as far as Nova Music site is concerned, it was 4 kilometers north of it. They came in from there. They came in vehicles, massive SUVs. A convoy of SUVs came in. They came inside. They landed. Some of them landed with paragliders and all, but bulk of them actually came in by vehicles. And they came into the music festival site. Some of them went into kibbutz nearby, all of them, all the kibbutzim. And their carnage is sort of well known, or we've been seeing and reading about it over the last 1 year or more. So, not only there were these terrorists who were getting into carnage, killing, kidnapping people, but 2 hours later, about 1,500 looters came in. People came in, women included. They came in vehicles and they looted the houses in the kibbutz. They took away everything from the houses and they went back. So that, by the time some people who were not observing Shabbat, they knew each other, they tried to contact each other. Like I said, some were not picking up mobile phones. But by the time, so situational awareness was a little low, but by the time it happened, then everyone said goodbye to their mother or their wives, and all soldiers then started reporting at the units. In fact, one officer told me that there were traffic jam because everyone then started coming onto the road to go to the units. And but however, when it got under control, and we know that it took a couple of days for them to then decide to launch an attack. But when they launched an attack, a colonel who was in the first wave, Colonel Ron Shafat, told me that when their tanks advanced, they saw the piles of bodies had been placed to halt their advance. And he said, we did not know. We didn't even know whether they are Israeli citizens or even Gaza citizens. Hamas has been very cruel even to their own citizens. So they did not know how whose bodies they were going to crash. So, but they stopped. Their advance was halted. They had to clear the bodies first, and then they had to move in. They said that, again, I'm using the word they said because this is what I'm hearing from them, that every house has weapons. That is why when the terrorists move from one house to another, they move without weapons. That's why the drones don't pick it up. You can't make out who's a terrorist because houses have weapons. Mosques have an armory and explosives. In fact, this colonel said at unit level, they all felt that they were making a mistake, that they were allowing civilians to go to the south, and then they cleared this area. And thereafter, they sanitized the area to the south, and they asked the civilians to move back. Because of that, they booby-trapped the area. Terrorists moved along with them, came back along with them. At the unit level, there was a lot of anger that they wanted to kill more and more terrorists. But they felt there was no political appetite. They wanted to go in with bulldozers, take out the tunnel. There are 600 kilometers plus worth of tunnels. And these tunnels are not, don't imagine small tunnels or the children's playground tunnel that I showed you. They are like a big room. So it's not a tunnel, it's an underground city by itself. It's called tunnel, but there's a labyrinth. There are hospitals, there are headquarters, there are all the kind of establishments down below. And so, like I said, the senior officers and the political machinery did not want that, but the juniors were more keyed up for killing terrorists. This is the kind of impressions I had. I also interacted with, we went to the Knesset, that is their parliament, interacted with one of the MPs from the Likud party, 𝗵𝗡 Halevi was his name. He spoke about the need to de-radicalize. We need to break the back of the Hamas terrorists. So 2 or 3 facts that come to my mind as I end my narrative. One, there have been different factions within Israel. Some want peace, some want to kill terrorists. But this attack on 7th October has united everyone. We saw that it still is there. There is a unity government, all parties put together. So this has united everyone because everyone wants to put an end to Hamas. That bit it has done. But why did Hamas do it? Hamas also knew that they will invite such a backlash because they've launched something. Israelis, Jews have not faced a carnage like this since the Holocaust of World War II. So, why did Hamas do it? You look at the scenario before 2023, what was happening. Abraham Accords were moving well. Saudi Arabia and Israel were mending their fences. So the Islamic world leader and Jews here were mending their fences. Things were going ahead at the behest of brokering peace by US. IMEC corridor is being formed, India, Middle East, European Economic Corridor, under the aegis or efforts of China. Iran and Saudi Arabia were also mending their fences. It had just started, early days though. So when all this was happening, Hamas thought their cause would be totally forgotten once Arabs made up with Israel. The Arab world made up with Israel, and they would be marginalized. So their hope was they wanted to sort of internationalize, draw attention back to them by a sensational operation, and that's what they did. They also hoped, which to my mind is far-fetched, they hoped that when they attacked, Hezbollah from the north would attack at the same time. Iran would rain missiles at Israel. The Arabs inside Israel, who I have told you that are living peacefully with Jews, but they said they hope that some of them will rise up and revolt from inside. The Muslims in Jerusalem would rise and revolt, but none of that happened. That was their sort of hope. It didn't happen. And so before I end, we also know that in the last less than a month, ever since President Trump has taken office on 20th of January, it is still not yet one full complete month. It's nearly a month. In this 1 month, President Trump has passed many orders, not only about Israel and Gaza, but many other things. And he has created a lot of disruption. So now it remains to be seen as to which way this will go. President Trump has been issuing ultimatums. Hamas has been releasing terrorists, but they are also getting a much disproportionately larger number of Palestinians. They're not all terrorists, but criminals. Everyone is being released. So this is all in all a very uncertain moment. We don't know whether the ceasefire will really continue to hold, and we'll see. We'll wait and watch, and see as to what happens. Thank you, sir.
Oh, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for that first-hand experience and your views about that entire episode. Let's look. Now you've seen what it is. I'm sure everyone has also heard what you had to say about that whole thing. What is the mood of Israel, and where do you think they see things happening ahead?
Yeah.
That I think is the important aspect. And flip is, what do they expect Hamas to do now?
So the mood of Israel. First thing I wanted to tell you is Israel says, and this is not my first trip to Israel. I've been there earlier in my service as a part of official delegation also. So there also I had discussions with the National Defense College of theirs and the National Security Council, and also it was not just tourism, it was other things as well. So mood of Israel now, mood of the nation. One, I told you, everybody wants Hamas out. They've managed to unite the factions. Second thing, a larger thing that Israel always says, earlier they used to say, we are the victims of Holocaust. 6 million Jews died. And now thousands have died in the 7th October attack. But we don't want to be defined by the Holocaust or the 7th October attacks. Now I'll explain what that means. Though everyone will say, but Jews are being always defined by the Holocaust. What they mean is, we don't want to be seen, and we are not a grieving nation. In the World Happiness Index, Israel, before the 7th October attack, was 4th. And now it has slipped down. Guess to what? To 5th. So it is still a happy nation. And this is my personal view. When you see people on the street, in the bars and restaurants and eat night, they are not a grieving nation. They become very stoic because of this. So that is the general mood of the nation. Second aspect, which I told you as far as this particular thing is concerned, Israel wants Hamas to be finished. Now, while the world opinion differs on the way Israel is handling collateral damage, as we call it. So there have been thousands and thousands of people who have died. But from now, speaking from their perspective, the terrorists, Hamas, hides behind civilians. And whether it's an Iraqi hospital or an Indonesian hospital, or every hospital especially has a labyrinth of tunnels and underground city under it. And those are the headquarters. Every school has terrorist headquarters. So, and the strange thing that I have found, I've heard a lot, is that the Gazans, the local population, does not really complain about being killed in public, about being killed in dozens and hordes, because the terrorists are taking using them as human shields. Now, this is something that resonates with me as a counter-terrorism man myself. I've served decades in Jammu and Kashmir. In Kashmir, they do the same thing, or at least now things have come under control. We have a similar thing. When I was the corps commander in 15 and 16, this was rampant, that the terrorists would keep women and children ahead and use them to escape during an encounter. It would happen. So this is the kind of mood that Israel is in. However, there is also rising anger against Benjamin Netanyahu, despite the fact that he is taking all these strong arm measures. As the prime minister, there is a feeling that he is also prolonging the thing because of his political survival. And we know that how the defense minister has resigned, the army chief has resigned, Israeli Defense Forces. Of course, they resigned owning the responsibility for their failures. But the fact is that they also don't want to be a part of this. So that is currently the mood of the nation.
Yeah, let me ask you a military-like question. You see, you look at what's happened over the past 1.5 years. Israel has been able to neutralize Hezbollah to a large extent and brought them to their knees. Iran has been also
the pagers were a very smart move as far as Hezbollah is concerned. Sorry for interruption.
And the Iran has been it's left on the sidelines. They've dismantled Syria. But look at Hamas. Despite whatever has happened to Hamas in terms of taking its leaders out and destroying tunnels, going there and all, Hamas seems to be still active and alive and all. And that was the original, aim of Israel, destroy Hamas. They have not been able to do that. How do you explain this, and how do you get the sense from what you interacted with people?
Yeah.
Or you didn't discuss it?
Yeah, I spoke openly to several colonels and even soldiers. So, I've spoken to colonel level officers who are fighting, commanding officer of a unit, for instance, and also to some soldiers. One photograph of a soldier you saw, that picture was with a soldier in black. So the soldiers at unit level feel, like I said earlier also in the passing, they feel that we should not cede ground, we should hold ground and destroy the tunnels. In fact, they told us now a consignment of bulldozers has come from the US. They are going to start taking action on the tunnels. It is going to be a very uphill task. A labyrinth like that to destroy will take, but they are also using sophisticated methods. I've been defense attaché in Vietnam 20 years ago, and I've seen those 𝗏𝗏 tunnels the Viet Cong used against the American army. And those tunnels were really tunnels. Though there were hospitals inside and all that, but they were very small tunnels. These ones are very big rooms. They have been proper bomb-proofed. I don't know how much concrete must have gone in. And we also know how the present prime minister actually wanted to prop up Hamas as a sort of alternate power center against Palestinian Authority, and that is why he turned a blind eye to all the these construction material and all weapons that were going inside. So it's a similar thing that we had, whether it was 𝗵𝗏𝗏 or it was Osama, similar thing. Yeah. It's a creation of this. Yeah. So, but coming back to the point, today they will use very sophisticated means to get them out of tunnels. It won't be just bulldozing, I think, when they come to it. But it remains to be. When I asked them this, or I said this as a counterterrorism man myself, I feel you will never be able to eradicate Hamas. You may kill a few terrorists, your balance sheet, and some more will join. Your balance sheet may be up. That means you've killed more than those who have joined and things like that. But the fact is, terrorists will still remain, which they agree. So what is the hope, I said? And they agreed when I suggested that the hope is that they manage to keep the terrorism or the terrorist violence below an acceptable threshold, below a certain threshold. And that is what they have to define for themselves. To say that we will throw them in the sea, or Trump's plan that Egypt will take them and this side Jordan will take them, are totally outlandish. President Trump has his own agenda of making headlines rather than substance. So it's a 4-year thing. This is a decade, 8 decade now long issue. So President Trump is there for 4 years. So there are short-term goals and there are long-term aims. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, and so, okay, let me ask you in your own assessment, where do you think this whole story is going with Hamas? Your assessment. Forget about what you. I mean, now that you've seen the thing on ground, and we also understand 8 decades is not going to go anywhere off. This history won't go. Hamas won't vanish. The people of Palestine will remain what they are. Whatever the problem in the West Bank is going to remain what it is. Right? Do you think at the end of the day, Israel is going to live in peace, or it's going to live in a troubled peace, or it's going to live in a hot war?
So, a straight answer will be an oversimplification. But my assessment is that presently they will squeeze Hamas. How they will squeeze? My guess is, earlier the same prime minister, like I said, turned a blind eye. Today, Iran,
of course,
and Iran sent in a lot of things. So today, they can tighten the screws. So if they tighten the screws, and UNRWA is actually being marginalized. They have decided. UNRWA is a UNRWA, a United Nations Relief and Welfare Agency, which is working in Gaza and West Bank. But that is totally corrupted. It's a support base for terrorists. That is well known. So like President Trump has now stopped US aid. He's totally closed that. Though that's got nothing to do here, not much to do here. So what is going to happen is, some of these UN bodies have actually brought in humanitarian NGOs and aid coming in and all that. So I think they will apply a squeeze on that. The moment Hamas stops getting, it has stockpiles of weapons, it has stockpiles of explosives, but everything will run dry sometime. So it is going to be a uphill and a long plodding march. It is not going to go away anytime soon. Take your mind to Kashmir. After all, Gaza is much smaller than Kashmir.
Yeah, other city bhi nahi hai.
हाँ, बिल्कुल. So it's a small. So Kashmir is such a big thing. In the last 5 years, 5.5 years, ever since Article 370 was abrogated, we have seen a great change in Kashmir. The number of encounters, the number of terrorist violence has come down drastically. You have to compare to earlier days, like when I was Corps Commander 10 years ago. And Burhan Wani we killed, all those things that happened, surgical stuff, all those things happened. Then there was the amount of stone pelting, buns, hartals, the markets would close, tourists won't come, Amarnath Yatra would be stopped. But today, this calm and quiet. It's taking time. It has taken time, but we have brought it below an acceptable threshold. Below a certain threshold. What is the acceptable threshold in Kashmir? Is below a threshold in which the government can prosecute development. So much so that the center had enough sort of confidence to have a political process, and we have a party in power, a political party in power, will get statehood. Coming back to, are we in that state anywhere near in Gaza? No, not yet. Palestine, that is the in West Bank, there is a very different dynamic. In Gaza, there's a different dynamic, but the good part is it's actually very small. when President Trump announced that plan of making it a Riviera on the Mediterranean, one thing that strikes me, in 1967, Gazans got this. Israel, accepted Gaza as a settlement after the 67 war. Earlier, it was in the Egypt's control. The size I just 40 kilometers by anything between 6 to 12 kilometers, 365 kilometers. They could have made it into a Hong Kong or Singapore. There's such great potential. If Trump can think of a Riviera, you could have made such things. It's on Mediterranean. What a beautiful strategic location. It could have been made into anything. But they chose terrorism. So I don't see it going away soon, but I see that Hamas will be fairly marginalized. How much will it remain to be seen? Look at Russia. Just take an analogy from Russia-Ukraine. For 3 years, it is going to be three years in a few days. For 3 years, nothing happened in the war. I mean, there are a lot of destruction, killings, deaths, area captured, all that has happened. But, you and I were of the opinion, all of us said, you and I and many others were of the opinion this will finish in 3 weeks or 2 months, the Russians will roll them up, all that. It has taken 3 years and we are still there. So, similarly, these kind of struggles are going to take a long time. And we need some very harsh twisting measures like President Trump has announced. And now suddenly we are going to see a lot of flurry of activities in both these fronts. That is the Russian front as well as
let me ask you another thing. Like you rightly said, you have to dry the Hamas out. There's no other way. Just have to dry it out, which means a lot of crowd control, civilian control, movement control, material control and all that. Do the Israelis have a plan of this kind? You forget about Trump's Riviera, it will never work. I don't think it will ever work.
Yeah.
Do you think, in your thing, do the Israelis have such a plan?
I have not heard a stated plan, but what I picked up from some conversations, sort of implied meanings. My guess is, from that I'm just conjuring, I'm sort of giving you what I understand is likely to be. Is they have a corridor that divides, that north and south, Netrazim corridor. Netrazim corridor. Like I said, in West Bank, there are many such corridors and there are many such roads, 246 or 256 something checkpoints and all that. Similarly, Gaza is now in the garb of reconstruction. Israel will perhaps put in more control measures. It is easier to control a smaller piece of estate, real estate. They already have one corridor. They will start destroying tunnels. It will take a long time. And they will use some harsh measures because it need not always be demolition. There can be some very sophisticated method. Let me not go into that. And drive out people. And they'll put some more checkpoints and control measures. The moment you put more checkpoints, control measures, that means cars are being checked, people are being checked and frisked and all that. You and I who operated in this counter-terrorism, we understand what we're talking about. Like you use the word, large word is population control measures. So with that, you can drive it down. I'll always go back to my sentence of, can it be zero? No. But if you can bring it down, and it will take a long time, but because there has to be reconstruction, whoever, America may step in and aid may come from the rest of the world and all that will happen. So during that time, Israel will make inroads, literally and figuratively.
So the reconstruction of this whole thing, who will fund it? Because
the world.
It can't be world will.
My guess is when such, after all, let's not forget, like you yourself said in the beginning, there has to be other side. There must be so many untold
there is.
If tomorrow I were to be invited to go into Gaza, I'll happily go there to hear the other side of the story. Because I may not support the Hamas terrorists. I may not support the Kashmiri terrorists. My mind is always with Kashmiri people. I always say they are misguided children, the terrorists. So similarly, there are also people there. If we have also radicalized many children who've lost their fathers in Gaza. So, or the parents or relatives. So there is another side to the coin. So I think I'm coming back to your question, who will fund it? I think for that human catastrophe in Gaza, they are funding, the world will fund it. Because there will be many people who want them to live in peace. I'm talking about the people. So we have to distinguish between Hamas terrorists and this, and which is a very tough call.
Yeah, I mean, let me now, I'm not given my opinion on this. I think this is going to be the biggest problem. Because with what Trump has said, not many people from the West will give funding. Who will fund? The Arabs are not very keen on funding these fellows anymore. So we'll have to see who will fund.
I take your point. I respect your point of view. But like I said, let me go back to that. Trump has exactly 3 years and 11 months left.
Correct.
This is a longer game.
I agree with you. There's no doubt about it.
And world opinion changes. Yes, the Arab world will not fund it. Who you and I, when we were studying about Yom Kippur War and all that for a promotion examinations, did you and I ever think that Arabs will make up with this, right? So
things change. I agree with you.
So this is 4 years. Ho jayega. I mean, 4 years. This is a long time. We are not getting into reconstruction anytime soon.
The reconstruction itself will take another 2 years to start. The way I look at it. Yes. I mean, the fundamental is to what I hope all our viewers are listening. Any reconstruction there means first building down the whole building and then clearing that area and then reconstructing. Yes. It is not that a broken building will you do patchwork and people will start living.
No, because don't forget, you have to take out the basement, which they call tunnel.
Basement also, and the tunnel.
It is not a basement because basement is contiguous to your ground floor. This is
but it's more
30 meters below, 50 meters below. So it is actually a tough task. So it's a lot of work has to be done.
Yeah. So the point I'm trying to bring out to everyone.
If you regulate, when you have population control measures, you just have to regulate the quantity of the import of cement and bricks, and that will make sure that you can't reconstruct tunnels again. That's going to happen. Construction material.
Yeah. So there's going to be a long thing. Because the hostage is just the first part of the story. We are still in what I'm trying to, I'm just summing it up on behalf of Dua. We are still in the first stage of this, peace deal. The second stage has to come, and the third stage, we don't know when it will come. Even the first stage is, going through on a start-stop basis. Already there are certain things of, ceasefire violations and all that. It's going to be a long time. One last question. Do you think Israel has the political will to now go through with all this construction and reconstruction and things like that?
I don't think the present dispensation will do it. And in any case, the present dispensation is not going to last very long. Because what is present dispensation? It is the present Prime Minister Netanyahu and the unity government. Both will not last because the time will come when there will be elections. And whenever there are elections, this Prime Minister loses. That's for sure. That is, when you ask me mood of the nation, I'm very sure. He will not win. And everyone knows it. And then there will certainly not be a unity government. There can be coalition. Israel is the sort of originator of coalition government, so there will be coalitions can be there.
Yeah,
and then we'll see.
We'll see what happens. Yeah, I think so. Thanks a lot for all this entire episode. I think you spoke a lot from what you saw on the ground, and that is valuable because it's one thing to read reports, and, listen to news and other views, and then talk, but it's another thing to go there, interact with people, get the human emotions out and see the ground, because as military people, we believe in ground. The ground tells you more about any event than anything else. The ground will tell you whether the chap is telling the truth or lying. And the ground will tell you the sorrow, because the ground doesn't go away. People might come and go, but ground always remains there. And that's what General Dua has seen, and he's come with that. But what I'm going to do is request General Dua with his experience, because the last part when we discussed Kashmir, I think we need to start thinking afresh about Kashmir. I'm not talking of just the Kashmir itself, but the whole story of Kashmir, POK, and will this entire area, will Pakistan take use of the resonance of Hamas into this? What will be the effect? How do you see this being played out? And all this, we'll discuss sometime, maybe towards the end of the month. Give it a time. Now that we posed a question to General Dua, I'm sure he'll apply his mind to it a little more. And this is a serious question. And unless we head it off by some thinking, we might land up in trouble again. While it's nice to say we've got good governance, X, Y, Z, but we never know unless, this is something we have to be vigilant always. And, not being vigilant is a heavy price we might have to pay. I hope you take my point, General Dua, and we have a discussion later in the month.
Okay, I take your point, but my suggestion is give it a little more time.
Yeah, we'll take the time. We can go to first week of March.
Because what will happen is that things will be clearer in both places. In the short term also, clearer there. I'll tell you why. Here also, there also things will be clearer because what Trump says, what the hostage releases will finish. Because
we'll talk about it. I understand. We'll not.
They will have to say that there are no more live hostages. Bodies will have to come back.
So, let's wait. Let's wait.
Yeah, let's wait. And also here, what will happen is soon, very soon, sometime they will give statehood. When it happens, is point to be seen. So we will see are things improving here. Okay, fine. We'll do it sometime.
We'll do it sometime. Maybe 10 days, 15 days, so that, it's not that, these things are never final. So we can always do a midterm kind of a review, right? With that, thanks a lot once again for coming back to us with such good, pictures and your experiences on Israel. And from there, we've, all the way from Israel and Gaza, we've come into Kashmir, and we've gone across a lot of territory. Thank you. Thanks to all the viewers who asked questions. I've not been able to take some questions, but be rest assured, we're going to come back with a trickier system as we, and ask ourselves. We need to ask ourselves trickier questions so that we can handle those problems as and when they come up, or many such problems. All right. Those of you who like this video, please press the like button. I would request many of you who are watching GunnerShot for the first time, please do subscribe. Also, consider becoming members of GunnerShot. Right, there are benefits of it which I have put out already. With this, thank you. Tomorrow evening, we'll start at 7 o'clock in the evening. I'll be doing a show with Mr. Sanjay Dixit and Rajiv Narayanan, General Rajiv Narayanan, and we're going to talk of US, Trump, India, and things like that. Till then, good evening and Jai Hind to all of you. And thanks a lot, General Dua. Jai Hind to you also.
Jai Hind. Thank you.